Alrighty, welcome to this quick guide on how to install all of the stuff required for X2C inside MPLAB. So firstly, we just go to here. If you go to the slides towards the end well, at least at the moment on slide 81, there's this link to download X2C. And on the next slide, or the slide after, sorry, there's this link to download XC16. So first off, we'll do X2C. Now, before we start, one thing to do is to just make sure that you've uninstalled all of your versions uh, of uh, MPLAB, as well as all of your versions of the XC16 compiler. You might be able to keep some of them, but just to be safe, it's just easier if you just uninstall everything and start from scratch. You might also want to sort of dig through your program files, just make sure there aren't any latent folders there, just to make things easy. But yeah, so once you've downloaded those, you should have them here. You can first run the X2C setup, and it'll come up with this smart screen thing. You just hit more things and go run anyway. More info, sorry, and accept the X2C license agreement. You can pick a folder to install it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a new folder just on my C drive with all of this stuff, just to make it all in one spot. So, yeah, and then we'll go back to here and rebrowse. This isn't strictly critical, but I find it easier if everything's in one spot. So now this is going to install there. And we want to do the full installation. So it'll download everything, particularly this, it'll download Scilab and all of the documentation tools for it. Maybe not everything's needed, but just install all of it. It's going to ask about Harmony, so I'm just going to chuck this in the same folder. And go next. And start menu folder, sure, whatever. Leave that one ticked and hit install. And then it's going to download a bunch of stuff. So just hit yes. So this is downloading all the other installers that it needs to install the different components, particularly Scilab, but also a couple of other things. So this might take a little while. And if you click details, you can see what it's doing. All right, and it'll pop up at some point with this download failed for error. That's fine, just hit ignore. It's now extracting all the files. Okay, and then it pops up with the Scilab setup. Just hit yes. And following through English. Next. Accept. Next. Pick your install location. I'm going to pop it in the same folder. Leave all of these unchanged. Turn off desktop icon, but leave the rest. Install. All right, Scilab's finished. You don't have to launch it. I'm just hit finish, and then see in the background, now it's installing Doxygen. Next, accept. Again, you can pick your file location, pick the same folder. Yep, yep. Install. All right, and Doxygen's done. Hit next and finish. Now doing GraphViz. Next, again, you can pick your file location. This one's a bit funkier. Just gonna leave it actually. And close. Now it's doing Java, except I'm just gonna put this in the default and then make sure again when you do the admin check. And finally, MPLab. This one might take a while. Go. And then TI Code Composer. And I think this one might not work. And then there we go. So here's the MPLab installer. It's a little bit buggy, but it does all work. I'm going to pick my friend folder, this one, and you can change these if you want. And we only need the 16-bit MCUs. The IDE is where we code. The IPE is for programming already compiled binaries, so it can be handy to have that as well. Next, and this will install MPLab in the background. And there's also this Code Composer Studio. I think this has a problem and we don't need it anyway, so you can just hit cancel on this one and abort that install. And we'll wait for MPLab to install. All right, and now MPLab is finished downloading and installing. I'm not going to launch it right now. You just hit finish, and then hit finish again. And I think that's everything. So now what we're going to do is we're going to open up MPLab. Okay, version 6.0.0 is what we want. Allow access. Okay, and here's MPLab. Give it another moment or two to load everything in. All right, and then we're going to install MCC. So to do that, we go to Tools, Plugins, and then we go to Available Plugins and look for MPLab Code Configurator, which is, where is it? It's not there. Let's try reloading. Oh, it's already installed. Okay, well, if it's not installed, then scroll down to the right section here and install it. Okay, so that's that. And then let's open up Scilab. So Scilab is like the equivalent of MATLAB. Oh, here we go. Just type it fully. So we're going to open Scilab desktop, not console. Alrighty. Give it a second to load everything in, and then we're going to want to go to the install location for X2C. So you might have to go up a level. Yeah, X2C MP Lab, and then go to 6.4, then to system, then to um, Scilab script, and then scroll down to Scilab, to setup.sce, this one here. Right click and execute in Scilab. So just so you know, that passes the install location, the version number, system, Scilab, script, setup.sce. Okay, and it said first part of the X2C setup finished. Please restart Scilab to complete this setup. And we'll just close it now. And we'll also, yep. Now we're going to clone the repo. So hopefully you've got the GitHub command line thing installed on Windows. This is the one I recommend. It's pretty easy to use. And we're just going to clone the Pix repo. Now, by the time this video, or by the time you're probably watching this video, it will be in just in the master branch, but at the moment it's in its own branch. So we're going to go git clone and paste the URL. You'll need to ask to get access to this if you're on the team. Sorry if you're not, but it's not completely open source. So once you've cloned it, you can cd into it, and I'm going to branch, so check out to the correct branch, but you will not have to do this. Okay, and then you will need to pull. So you can just pull in master instead of pulling in VLCMD. And good, it's already up to date, so that's good. And now we can open the project uh, in X2C. So mine's already in the Pixel folder. The default location is your user folder on Windows. I'm just going to open up VLCMD.x, and in a moment it should open. Now you'll see here that it's saying it wants compiler XC16. If we try and build, I'm pretty sure it's going to not be happy. Yeah, so compiler toolchain of this type does not exist. So this is when we need to install our version of XC16. So the link in the slides, this one here, we'll run that. And click yes. Next, accept. Free license is good. And again, pick your location. You can leave a default if you like. I like putting them all in one spot just for completeness. And then, yeah, you can leave these unchanged and then let it install. All right, and then that's XC16 installed. Okay, let's click next and finish. Cool. All right, so now if we try to build, still not available. So we've got to select it. So we go to Tool, Options, and then Embedded, and then go to Build Tools, Add, Browse. There we go. So the bin folder. unfortunately, something went a bit awry with my XC16 installation, but it's in the bin folder, XC16. Okay, and there we go. Now we have the compiler. Click apply. Okay, and now it's going to initialize MCC for some reason. Cool. All right, now let's try building. Now it's probably not going to work again because there's one more step. Well, let's have a look. It's trying to build at least. Okay, there's the error. Yeah. Whoa, okay. So if we scroll back up, no rule to make target, blah blah blah. This dspic control.a thing, and this is because we need to do a step with X2C. So if we open up MCC, which is what hosts X2C for MPLAB. Okay, so as is typical for MCC, after a long time thinking, it's finally managed to open everything. And it's opened up sort of the default modules here. So if we click on the left on X2C and then double click the X2C module, you can see this is our old friend. So all we've got to do actually is generate MCC. And this essentially generates a bunch of files that are specifically for X2C to use all around control of the microcontroller. Yeah, so once that's done, all right, so now that's done, nearly, still thinking, okay, so we can go back to the project, and now we can build, and it should work this time. There we go, build successful. That's really good. So now you can build, and if you had your PIC kit plugged in, you could load it onto the PIC with this if you wanted to make any changes. So now I'll show you how to open the X2C model. So if you in the X2C tab, if you click this open button, it might work. This is a little bit buggy, this button. Yeah. Oh, here we go. It's opening Scilab. Yeah, okay, so it's a bit unhappy. If that happens, all you have to do is this blcmd.zcos file. That's the model. So you just double click on that, and it should open up. And here it is. Now, you'll notice again that there's sort of, these aren't blue like they should be. So I think the solution to that is just to close Scilab and open it again. Okay, here you go. So we have to give it a while, but it does eventually load all of the X2C blocks. And I think once it does this once, it will remember. Cool. So now you can go into your program. So I'm going to go up to, yeah, and then into PICs and CMD. And then, so to find the actual Zcos file, if you're navigating this way, you go into MCC generator files, X2C code, and then blcmd.zcos. And now everything's loaded correctly. So got all of the boxes are blue. Sorry, it's a bit laggy. Here we go. Apologies for how some of these arrows format. Ooh, wow. Git doesn't really like Scilab very much. So the arrows get a bit forked. There's also some like random text around, but that's just how it is. Yeah, so in here you can go tools, start X2C communicator, and this will open up X2C communicator, and this is what we actually use to talk to the BLCMDs themselves. Um, so I'll show you in the demo in person, but we can connect it over serial with this plug. Um, and yeah, the other thing you need to do whenever you change your model, in order to get that to talk to uh, MPLAB, you need to, once you've started the X2C communicator, you need to transform the model, and that will pop up with this window. Model transformation done. Um, and then yeah, so that's that bit. And then if you ever change the I/O in your uh, in your block diagram, so these green imports or the red outputs, you will need to hit this reload IOs button, and that will just update the struct in X2C. Um, and yeah, that means you can load things however you like. I think that's everything.